We now move on to our most awaited fireside chat session with Mr. Pranav Gupta, Dr. Debanjan Chakrabarti, and Professor Dr. Soujanya Pudi, moderated by Mr. Sanjai Banerji. We have Mr. Pranav Gupta, Secretary General of the Federation of Indian Publishers, entrepreneur, publisher, nationalist, leader, and author as our first panelist and guest of honor. We are pleased to have the Federation of Indian Publishers as our knowledge partner for KLC 2025. Mr. Pranav Gupta is a distinguished leader in the Indian publishing industry. With 17 years of experience, Mr. Gupta is the Managing Director of Prince Publication Private Limited and has played a pivotal role in pioneering digital and technological advancements in publishing. He is also the General Secretary of Federation of Indian Publishers, Secretary General of the Indian Reprographic Rights Organization, and Chairman of the Data and Statistics Committee at the International Publishers Association in Geneva. Additionally, he serves as an elected director for the Afro-Asia Book Council. Mr. Gupta's extensive contributions and leaderships continue to elevate the publishing industry on both national and international stages. We now welcome Mr. Pranav Gupta on stage with a huge round of applause. And to felicitate Mr. Pranav Gupta, may we please invite Ms. Tulika Majumdar. Thank you, Ms. Tulika. You may please reset your seat, Mr. Gupta. We have our second panelist and guest of honor, Dr. Debanjan Chakrabarti. Dr. Debanjan Chakrabarti is the Director of the British Council, East and North East India, and was the UK's in-post lead for the cultural track of G20 in 2023. He is a member of the British Council's Global Creative Economy Programme Board and one of the research champions for South Asia. He is a co-supervisor for the Oxford-Cambridge Open University Collaborative Doctoral Award on Multilingual Teaching, Learning and Assessment of English in India's Primary Schools, which is a partnership with the British Council. Dr. Debanjan has a background in research, especially in public policy, and he has scoped and scouted 2 landmark research projects for the British Council. Number 1, the creative economy mapping of Durga Puja in West Bengal on behalf of the state government of West Bengal in India, working closely with the West Bengal Tourism Department to present pioneering research in creative economy in India. Number 2, Cambridge University-led project on multilingualism in Indian primary schools that provides an evidence base for some of the recommendations of India's National Education Policy 2020. A triple gold medalist in English literature from Jadavpur University, India, Dr. Debanjan has a multidisciplinary PhD combining literature, films and media studies from the University of Reading, UK, for which he received a Felix Scholarship from India. Dr. Debanjan is an alumnus of Ramakrishna Mission School and College from Purulia and Narendrapur respectively. He started his career as a journalist with the Telegraph and then taught literature, culture and films at Vishva Bharati University in India and in the UK early in his career. He has several scholarly and journalistic publications to his name. A University Blue and captain of the Jadavpur University tennis team, Dr. Debanjan retains an active interest in sports, especially tennis and cricket, and often writes and speaks on related topics for media publications and literature festivals. Please welcome Dr. Debanjan Chakrabarti on stage with a huge round of applause. To felicitate Dr. Debanjan, may we please welcome Ms. Kajari Guha on stage. Thank you, Ms. Kajri Guha. We have our third panelist and guest of honor, Professor Dr. Soujanya Pudi, Professor and Head at NSHM Center for Language and Communication. We are pleased to have NSHM Center for Language and Communication as our program partner for KLC 2025. Dr. Puri has 24 years of experience in teaching, training and consulting. She is a certified career coach and trainer with proven expertise in leveraging technology for effective classroom transaction of content curriculum and classroom management for the academia and industry. She is also a corporate trainer with experience in conducting corporate training masterclasses, workshops and case studies in the said areas. Please put your hands together to welcome Dr. Soujanya Pudi on stage. To felicitate Dr. Soujanya, may we please have Dr. Aurobindo Ghosh on stage. Thank you so much, Dr. Aurobindo. To moderate this fireside chat, we have with us our esteemed author, Mr. Sanjai Banerji. Mr. Sanjai Banerji is the author of 4 books: Crossing the Finish Line, Running, The Mountaineering Handbook about Mountaineering, Nobody Dies Tonight about fitness in the COVID-19 pandemic, and Justice on the Hills is a novel on the quest for statehood. He has co-authored 13 anthologies with us to date. He's a CSR consultant and lifestyle coach. In 2019, Mr. Sanjay became the oldest Indian at age 59 to run the big 3 Asian marathons in Mumbai, Kuala Lumpur and Singapore. Mr. Sanjay is currently the oldest Indian with 4 medical conditions to summit the highest point of the African continent, Mount Kilimanjaro, at 64 years. Please welcome Mr. Sanjay with a huge round of applause. Now that all our panelists are here, along with our moderator, the topic for our fireside chat is the dynamics of the publishing industry with the market trends and evolving consumer behavior. Let us begin the fireside chat now.
Indro.
Dear esteemed panelists, it is my absolute pleasure to welcome you to this exciting panel discussion. The dynamics of the publishing industry, market trends and evolving consumer behavior. Together, we gather at a time when the publishing world is undergoing a remarkable transformation. From the rise of digital-first platforms to the integration of artificial intelligence, the industry stands at the crossroads. Okay. Readers are consuming content in new ways. Writers are exploring fresh behavior. Hello. Yeah, readers are consuming content in new ways, writers are exploring fresh creative avenues, and publishers are rethinking their strategies to keep pace with evolving trends. My first question to this esteemed panelists who are rich with experience in their respective fields. My first question is to Mr. Pranav Gupta on AI in publishing. Mr. Gupta, how do you see AI reshaping the publishing industry in terms of content creation, distribution, and market analysis? Are there risks of over-reliance on AI?
Good evening, everyone. So, AI is another technology, and we all know technology is always a two-sided sword, two-sided sword for all of us, and it's been a game changer for all the industries so far. There are a lot of benefits of the AI as a technology when it comes to the publishing world. Multiple softwares are there based on the AI where it really helps in the pre-press process, typesetting, editing, proofreading, copy editing, and it makes the job very simple for the publishing house. So there are great benefits of the technology. But the larger concern for the publishing industry when it comes to the AI is the content generation. The challenge for us is, as an industry, that all these AI companies, they have been training their machine learning on the data sets of our content creation, which has been done over an years and without our consent and approval. For these technology companies, the content we as a publishing community which has published over the decades, it may be merely a data sets for them, but to train their machine learning process. And based on that data sets, they are able to generate new algorithms and the data for which there is a fresh content. But that fresh content is technically being produced by training the content which was originally published by the publishing community, which is protected by the Indian Copyright Act 1957, and under no circumstances this copyright infringement should have been happening. All these AI companies from many years, they have been training their models on our data sets. Now in recent past, when the litigations has been filed in the US, Europe, many of these tech companies have started doing the licensing of the content. And licensing is one of the only mechanism at the moment where the right holders, when I refer it to right holders, here I basically speak about the authors and the publishers, they can be further monetized with their creations what they have done so far. Okay, so AI as a technology has a great challenge, great threat for us. But yes, there are legal remedies within the system, and there has to be policy level decisions to be taken by the various governments at different levels. So we at the Federation of Indian Publishers, we have made a lot of representation on this. We were asked to give our responses before the Parliament Standing Committee, and the Standing Committee observed our observations, and they found that this is a great challenge for the entire literary ecosystem. And certain suggestions have been made and have been incorporated, and I'm happy to report that the 161th report on the commerce has been tabled in both the houses of the Parliament. And let's see how it gets moved. And one of the recent legal development which happened in India is the ANI Media, which is a news agency. They have filed a case against OpenAI, that's ChatGPT, before the Delhi High Court for the infringement of the content, because ChatGPT was able to produce results from the websites, and whereas the ChatGPT has at the moment given an undertaking that they will not be accessing ANI Media website. And happy to report further that Federation of Indian Publishers have filed an intervener application in that matter, and that matter was listed yesterday itself, and we have been made a performer party. So we'll be making a lot of representations before the Delhi High Court in this particular matter.
Mr. Gupta, you have made a lot of pertinent changes on AI from the Federation of Indian Publishers. It's really an eye-opener. A lot of things which our audience here did not know about. So that's great work you are doing.
Thank you.
My next question would be to Mr. Debanjan Chakrabarti on translation and multilingual publishing. With the rise of translation, how can it help bridge cultural divides between Indian and global readers? Can translations improve the markets for lesser known languages of the Northeast, since you are looking after the area of the Northeast. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And first, a very big round of thanks and applause to Kyoto Publishing for creating this platform. I'm very grateful and to be part of this very illustrious panel. The British Council is the UK's organization for international culture and education relations, and we are there in over 110 countries. India, incidentally, is British Council's largest operations in the world. We are celebrating our 90th year this year. From it started in December 2024. And this is a very good context and backdrop for the question that you've just put to me. There are three key areas of work for the British Council: higher education and research, and ma'am, you know that very well as recipients and beneficiaries of our research grants. Then we work in the area of English language and school education. And the third, which is very pertinent to this particular discussion, is arts, culture, and within which we work very closely in literature. And there is this perception that British Council only works with English literature, but we don't. We work with all literature and all languages, and we showcase Britain's 4 major languages all over the world, and English is not the only language that's spoken in the UK. There's Welsh, there's Gaelic, there's Celtic. So we represent that internationally. Just last month we were in Hornbill Festival, where we presented 2 fantastic musicians who write and sing their own lyrics in Welsh. So there's a way where we create these platforms to bridge cultural divides. In India, we work a lot with the literature across various languages and with the publishing sector as well. So I'm really glad to have Mr. Gupta with us, and I hope to have a longer conversation with you later. What I have to say is referred to this quite an interesting study that we published a few years back called the India Literature and Publishing Sector Study. I'll share a copy of this with you. Oh, you have that. Yeah. I'm really interested in your comments on this. So one of the things that is common to all of India and Northeast shares those characteristics is the market is very, very fragmented. It's a very non-homogeneous market in publishing and in translation, and data is quite scarce. So I'm really looking forward to working more closely with your organization, sir, to mine more data. Data is sacred, and without hard data, it's very difficult to frame the right kind of policy and create the right incentives, create the right kind of collaboration, education infrastructure, etc. The second challenge that again the Northeast faces and shares with rest of India is, publishing in India is still largely a semi-organized sector. I mean, it's not, and some of the challenges you mentioned are typical of not a formal sector, not fully formal sector, and which is very ironic given that it's a knowledge sector. It should be a lot more formalized and be within the ambit of lots of regulations, but also incentives. The third thing is around training and education. There are so few proper publishing and translation courses available in India, both at government institutions and at private institutions. The couple we know of from this research are all very closer home, and please correct me if we have got it wrong. So there's Jadavpur University runs an excellent publishing course, and Seagull Publishing runs one. And another challenge that I'll stop there, and this is very germane to the Northeast, because I don't know, Northeast is a fantastic, thriving literary cultural scene. The Northeast, we also have a lot of research in multilingual education. So we know from that research in other verticals that the Northeast is the world's second most linguistically diverse geopolitical region. The first is Papua New Guinea, and then and the metric for this measurement is how many languages per 1,000 speakers. So Northeast is the second most linguistically diverse space in the world. And given that diversity, very little trickles out of the Northeast to rest of India, let alone rest of the world. So we have taken some baby steps to mitigate that. So in 2023, when we were celebrating, marking India's 75th anniversary through a program called India-UK Together, a Season of Culture, as part of that, one of our major projects was identifying 20 young Assamese authors, and then we had a long workshop through which they were translated into English. It was an India-UK collaboration. The Indian lead was Arunabha Sinha, the well-known translator, and we then published a book called A Fistful of Moonlight. So the rights were initially bought by B Books here in Calcutta and then sold to a UK publisher, and it did fantastically well commercially, even internationally. So that is the final point, that market access is complex. The rights issues, we don't have a very regulated, formalized rights market. We don't have anything near Frankfurt Book Fair. We have right here in our doorstep, we have the world's largest consumer book fair, but the amount of rights bought and sold is negligible, practically nil. So I think there's a lot required in terms of creating more formal structures and creating the basic infrastructure in terms of education, training, rights, copyright issues, which sir, you mentioned. It's very, very vital, because there's so much of piracy even within Indian publishing. And then there's the whole thing with the Northeast, the challenges, the story of the Northeast, metaphorically and literally, traveling to rest of India and then from there to rest of the world. So, and British Council is there to play a humble role in this, creating a bridge.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chakrabarti. There is something which I would like to share with you. Like when I was a student, and I'm sure the larger audience amongst us, we spent very pleasant moments in British Council libraries all over India, where a lot of us, we had very good reference books. And a lot of us spent a lot of our time studying, for our post-graduation in the British Council Library in Delhi, for instance. So this is something,
Thank you so much. It's a real privilege for me to walk through this world of books to my workplace. And I never tire of quoting one of my favorite authors, Jorge Luis Borges, who said, "My idea of paradise is a library." So I work.
I'm sure all of us agree.
So I work in a paradise in that sense.
Thank you very much. My next question would be to Dr. Soujanya Pudi on evolving consumer behavior. Ma'am, what trends are you observing in how consumers engage with books today? How should publishers adapt their communication strategies to meet these changes?
Thank you so much, and it's always a pleasure to be coming to this Kolkata Literary Carnival, and for a change this time sharing stage with luminaries like Mr. Debanjan, whom I've seen for a long time, and Mr. Pranav Gupta. I met him in Delhi the last, and the author himself moderating the session. Pardon me for my voice. It's a very pertinent question. When we're talking about consumer behavior, I think the entire world is talking about launching, relaunching, or taking away products basing on the consumer behavior. But for us here, we're looking at readers. What are the expectations of our readers? Now we're dealing with multiple, generation millennium. We have the millennials, the baby boomers, the alpha, beta, and then the gamma coming in. So, what are we actually looking at as themes which would actually enthuse these people to come and take to books. I work in an institution wherein we offer courses for almost, you name it, we have all the courses there. And that gives us a chance, and English is one language which is there as a subject in almost all the courses, and we get a chance to interact with the students who are looking at making careers in all these professions. And what we understand is they do not want to spend a lot of time reading a book. Their attention span is very limited. So looking at, if you look at the way the Insta Reels have changed, the way the books have now come into audiobooks. The other day, we were thinking of staging a play of Twelfth Night by Shakespeare, and which would take rightfully a couple of hours. So we had a professor telling us, "Ma'am, could you make it for half an hour?" Because the students wouldn't sit through the session. So the expectations now is, how do I give the knowledge which I would want to give them, the skills which I would want to give them the attitude, plus give them the right kind of book which would actually make them sit in a place and go through that. I was just having a chat with Mr. Gupta before we were waiting for the sessions to start. We were reflecting that a lot more of people reading, that's what his data says, but I would also say that a lot more of people wanting to write. Because that is where, publishers like Ukyoto are making a difference. Earlier, to publish a book would be very tough, but now it's become very easy because you have a lot more of people where they could go and convince and talk about their book. The themes are post-COVID. I think there are a lot of people who want to express about loss. People would want to talk about things because there's no one at home who they can connect with or who is ready to listen to them. And so there's an urge in all of them to write. Trust me when I tell you this, when we have a theme and we open it up for a poetry or any of the essay writing or a short story writing competitions, you would be surprised that we have at least some 200, 300 entries. And when we open it up for inter-school or inter-college competition, yes, in themes like, peace, freedom, and I think that's where the blue humanities has fast become a reality. When we would talk about it some time back, now it's become the norm of the land, because I think the themes which we need to work on as publishers, we are looking at, I would strongly advocate that we've been experimenting on cliched themes and they get to see light, but then the youngsters of today have so much to say and write. They have got an opportunity, so that we should allow them to talk about inclusivity, allow them to write about themes which are centered around peace, climate change, environment. I think the consumer behavior, the readers of today are looking at that, because they've been hearing about, and a lot of stuff is available in the social media on themes which have been discussed and rediscussed. Our age, of course, Indian knowledge system is fast picking up. That's one area which we also would want to focus on, because we would want our youngsters or the people to be more aware of our heritage, our traditions and our culture, and not to forget about themes which would also make them think, sensitize them. I think that would be of great importance for publishers, and I think that's going to be a big talking point in days to come as well.
Thank you, Dr. Soujanya. And for the benefit of the audience, I would like to say that Dr. Soujanya is probably one of the best persons to understand what goes in the younger generation's mind since being a teacher. So she is probably the best person to know. What is their interest of the younger generation and the current trends or interests among the students passing out. Thank you very much, Dr. Pudi.
Thank you.
We now come back to Mr. Pranav Gupta on the second question. This is on government aid. What steps can governments take to provide more robust support for published writers, especially those working in regional languages. Does the government have any schemes for aiding writers and publishers in fostering better sales of books of visibility in both domestic and international markets? Can the Federation of Indian Publishers play a role in this?
See, for any industry, the role of the government is very crucial and important. When it comes to the publishing industry, as my fellow panelist was mentioning, the publishing industry itself has never been given a very formal status as of now. The need of the hour is that the industry should be given a formal status. Second, our contribution as an industry not should be only looked up as what we contribute into the India's GDP, but our contribution as a publishing industry should be seen as the soft qualitative change which we bring in the humanity, in the society, in the knowledge-oriented economy. Nations and societies of the 21st century are going to be knowledge-oriented economy. If we as a Bharat or India, we want to be a Viksit Bharat by 2047, knowledge economy plays a critical and a crucial role. And within this, we need to have a robust book reading nation. India is such a large market, and there are multiple government agencies working in different directions. But what the challenge we have seen with these government agencies, that they have gone above their mandate. For instance, I'll quote you, National Book Trust of India. Their mandate is to promote book reading culture in India. Their mandate was never to do commercial publishing. In last 10 years, National Book Trust has typically come as I ventured into book publishing and publishing more than 1,000 titles, doing a turnover of 700, 800 crores. I'll give you an example, there is a scheme within the government of India called Samar Shiksha Abhiyan. Within that, every primary school of country gets a budget of government aided schools. They get a budget of 20,000 rupees to have library books. Now that budget is only going to an agency like National Book Trust. So it is money moving from government's one treasury to the another. That's the biggest challenge, and where does the publishing industry, the private sector doesn't get the opportunity to serve. Another challenge for us is like Sahitya Academy. Sahitya Academy's original mandate was to identify the literature which is of national and international importance, and then translate all those literature into the Schedule 8 languages. But what is happening over there? A limited section of authors being handpicked, and they are being only translated, and Sahitya Academy again doing a limited role into their genre. So their role needs to be expanded. It should be like private industry players should be allowed to submit their books to the Sahitya Academy, and then there could be a proper board which can, handpick the titles. There could be a proper transparent evaluation process through which these titles should be selected and they should be translated. And then the authors get royalties and the publishers can further monetize. Third, there has been not enough support by the government, especially on the book festivals. We have been talking about mohalla clinics. We have been talking about, other stuff. But what is the status and the condition of the public library system in India? There is a proper Ministry of Culture under which more than 100,000 libraries falls. Where that budget is going? Why these public libraries are not being upgraded? These are some basic fundamentals, things which the government should be looking at. And both central and state governments have got immense funds for these particular projects where they can, really help. Now, Government of India came out very recently with One Nation, One Subscription policy. Now, One Nation, One Subscription policy, when they brought it, it's a good policy in the larger interest of the academy. But the challenge was that in the first round, all the acquisition was made for the 30 international publishers. Not even a single Indian publisher was in the list. It was very disappointed to see the Indian publishers not getting the due place what it should have been. So there are significant challenges, and the British Council have done a wonderful job from taking their literature from local to global. Today in India we have Indian Council of Cultural Relations. massive budget under the Ministry of External Affairs. They have got 38 international ICCR centers all over the world. The flagship one is like Nehru Center in London. We have Vivekanand Center in in Amsterdam. We have Tagore Center in Berlin. We have Swami Vivekanand Center in Mauritius. Why don't we use these ICCR centers as a infrastructure or a role model for us, where we promote our Indian authors, Indian publishers? On the similar lines, what British Council has been doing, or the USAI has been doing. There's a lot government can do into this, and we can start from national book fairs to regional book fairs, and in every district we can also have a book promotion officer. There could be endless recommendations from the for the government which has to come. And Prime Minister, he himself has quoted in 4 years back, it is not government's business to be in business. And now you see all government entities who are related into publishing, they have technically become the commercial publisher. The biggest one is like NCRT, SCRT. NCRT's original mandate was only to produce model textbooks. Their mandate, if you even look up today, is never to get into commercial business, commercial activity. So they must restrain from doing this, and they should encourage the private publishing industry to work in the interest of the larger ecosystem.
So, Mr. Gupta, what you are trying to say is probably the government agencies are not, I wouldn't say they're not channelizing the funds properly, but they are not perfectly channelizing the funds.
My point is they should stick to their mandate.
They should stick to
their mandate. They shouldn't be going beyond that mandate. If National Book Trust has been given a mandate to promote book reading culture, so book reading culture can be promoted through organizing book fairs, book festivals. Even the NBT's job is to promote festivals of these scale to support this, rather getting into commercial publishing and distribution. Okay. And then again utilizing that money which finally under Samar Shiksha Abhiyan, that same books are being going from NBT. So it's like just cannibalizing the government fund from one treasury to the another. So it doesn't make sense at all.
I would like to let the audience get into a secret. I did my schooling in Kerala, and do you actually want to know why Kerala became the first 100% literate state in India? There's a story behind it, and I was a witness to it. It's because in Kerala we had extremely well sort of organized public libraries, and that is the reason why Kerala became the first 100% literate state in the country. Because somehow in Kerala, the state government spent a lot of money on public libraries.
And one of the major challenges which we should highlight is India lacks as a book promotion policy.
Yeah, that's right.
US, UK, Europe, Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, all major countries have a book promotion policy in place. We had the new education policy being rolled out 3 years back, 4 years back. National book promotion policy has been pending since last more than 50 years. Round of meetings has happened and it has never come to the conclusion. Hopefully, I am very hopeful in 2025 if the policy can be rolled out, so something better can be done for the publishing industry.
Thank you very much. And my next question is to Mr. Chakrabarti on a subject which is very close to your heart. And Shakespeare is possibly one author whose works have been adapted for the screen the most across the world. Which ones, in your view, have worked in Indian firms and international?
Thank you.
Is very close to you.
Thank you. This is very interesting because it takes me back to my previous career as an academic. But also, Shakespeare. I mean, you spoke about promoting national culture through books. I think Shakespeare is probably one of the most global icons through which British culture has been propagated, promoted, not pushed very hard. I think that's an overstatement. But Shakespeare is probably the most widely translated author of all times, most widely read author, either knowingly or unknowingly, because this is the thing, Shakespeare's stories have always lent itself to fantastic screen adaptations. Shakespeare was, I used to teach a class on Bollywood when I was a student in the UK, research student. So I used to begin my lecture by saying Shakespeare was the Salim Javed of his days. So, I mean, he didn't set out to become the world's most sophisticated thinker, writer, intellectual. He wrote potboilers to the best of his ability. And therefore, I think the world of melodrama and violence and sex and intrigue that Shakespeare's stories draw upon, they lend themselves very well to screen adaptations. I think internationally there are some amazing adaptations in almost every major film culture. My favorite English screen adaptation is relatively less known because the play isn't that much taught. It's Richard III, directed by Richard Longcrane, with Sir Ian McKellen in the lead role. And I think the beauty of this particular adaptation is, the play reads like a thriller and the film runs like a thriller. And though it uses Shakespeare's iambic pentameter, Sir Ian McKellen's delivery is so silk and smooth that it doesn't feel like Shakespearean language at all. There are some amazing Hindi adaptations, obviously, and Bengali adaptations as well from the cinemas I know. One of my favorite is obviously Vishal Bharadwaj's trilogy. But there's an old one, Ankur, which I really, really love. I mean, and that is one of my favorite Shakespearean comedy adaptations, comedy of errors adapted into Hindi. With, do you remember who Devan Verma was there? Yeah, and yeah, and so Shakespeare lends himself particularly well to most cultures. There's a universalism about Shakespeare's appeal because of that world of melodrama, intrigue, violence, everything under the sun. But Indian sensibilities particularly align well. Shakespeare is a brilliant visual storyteller. And I think Indian storytelling traditions are very, very visual in nature. If you think of the beginning of Gita, I mean, it is about, Sanjai Vacha is about, he's telling the story, he's painting the picture of what's happening in the battlefield of Mahabharata for blind Dhritarashtra. So I think, therefore, deep-rooted, we are as much a literary culture as we are a visual culture. Therefore, Indian film industry, without a shadow of doubt, is the world's largest film industry by quite a distance overall. And Shakespeare, I'm delighted, plays a wonderful part in it.
Yeah, my last question to the panelists is directed to Dr. Soujanya Pudi. We find a lot of demand, this is from the Kyoto Publishing Group, in their offline campaigns, specifically in the mangas, due to the surge in the case stories in Netflix or Korean Japanese drama. Do you have any such insights to provide as you would interact more frequently with the younger generation and understand their interest levels? Probably publishers can focus more on those to work on the genres and feed.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that's a brilliant question, in fact. Yeah, manga is something which the students are really adapting to. And again, we were talking about blue humanities. That has become, I think, the prominent theme which has been in almost all of this. It has got a lot more popularized. And if you look at the research areas now, are more towards climate fiction, and you're looking at areas which would actually, eco-fiction is one area. Earlier times people never had it. It's a big genre which is now shaping up. I think the youngsters of today are really taking towards that. Due to paucity of time, I think we will take it up some other time. I think.
Thank you very much. There is just one question. This is coming from the audience. So what they all say is that we get our novels published. Our greatest dream is to see that our novel gets seen on the big screen. So this question is directed to all three of you. I mean, what would you tell the young author that he dreams of, like Chetan Bhagat has got most of his novels into the big screen. Now suppose they have written a novel. Now what are the steps they would have to take to get it onto a screen, onto the big screen? It's directed to all three of you. This is the last question.
So primarily it will depend upon the author and the publisher's agreement what it speaks. Who possesses the right for the monetization of that? Second, there in the recent couple of years now there are few set of companies which primarily work for identifying the titles from book to screen. So, if any of your authors they write to us at the Federation of Indian Publishers, we could probably connect you with these few companies who are primarily working directly with the authors to identify their books and bring that into their portfolio and present it to the companies who are interested in the OTT platforms or the movies sector. So it's picking up, I'm sure, and there are few players, and I'm sure many more other companies would be coming in this field as well.
I'm sure 20 authors will be contacting you tonight.
I completely support what you said. My one-line tip would be get a really good agent and make sure that you do not sign away your film rights to the particular topic, because usually audiobook right is most publishers would take it from the author right away. Film rights, it all depends. Yeah. So get a really good agent is my tip.
Well, to make it more relevant of the current times, I think take to Insta, make a good reel out of it, because I think the Bollywood and is actually in dearth of good scripts. So looking forward to people coming up with good scripts. So if they like one of yours, I'm sure, and please tag all the relevant directors who would want to contact you, taking the cue from all the other panelists. I think this would be the fastest for you to get your story through to the directors.
Thank you, panelists. I think this was a very enlightening experience for all of us before you. Unfortunately, we are short of time, so you won't be able to get time to ask questions, but I'm sure they are ready, our panelists, to ask any questions, to reply to any questions you have later on after this. Okay, Shirsha, on to you. Thank you.